AITA for not agreeing to a paternity test unless my husband goes to therapy. I, 28F, and my husband, 32M, have a 3-year-old son together. There has never been any doubt that my husband is the father. I've never given him any cause for concern that I cheated on him. He acknowledges all of this. Last week, he came to me and said that for the last few months, he has been plagued, his word, with this anxiety that our son is not his. They don't look identical, granted, but they definitely share similar features, and I see my husband whenever I look at my son. I was obviously blindsided by this. I had no idea he was having these thoughts. I asked him to explain why he thought that he wasn't his, and he couldn't really provide any answer, other than a gut feeling. He asked me if I would be okay if he got a paternity test done so it could ease his mind. I initially said absolutely not. No way in hell. I was very offended. He told me that he could just do it without my permission, and I said if he did that, I would never forgive him. My husband does not have a history of anxiety, but he did lose his job back at the start of the pandemic, so he's been with our son most of the time while I work my full-time job from home. I know this hasn't been easy on him. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but maybe he is starting to resent our son or something from just having to be around him constantly. After our heated first conversation, I spoke with some friends about it, and they said that he was probably having psychiatric problems due to the stress of not having a job. I came back to my husband and said that if he went to therapy and maybe started taking some anti-anxiety meds, that I would consider getting the test. He was very upset at this and said that once he got the results of the test back, he wouldn't be anxious anymore, and that I wasn't being fair by making him go through a whole rigmarole. Again, his word, just to get peace of mind, which was a phrase he used a lot during this. He again threatened to just get the test without my permission, and I said this would effectively end our relationship. I think there's something more serious going on here, and I thought that my solution here is as fair as I'm willing to be. My friends are divided. Some think I should just take the test, and others are saying he's being insane and that if I cave to this, there's just going to be something else. I need some neutral perspective here. AITA. If it is a big enough deal that he was willing to risk losing his marriage and potentially permanently damaging his relationship with his child, then his anxiety is a big enough problem that it needs to be addressed in therapy. Giving in and getting the test will only address this one anxiety. More will pop up. That's the nature of the beast. You can't placate someone with anxiety. It never goes away until the root of the problem is addressed. And even then, it's a lifelong struggle. Your husband has an anxiety problem, and it is only going to get worse. And he needs help. Stand firm.
NTA.
NTA. Even in the best case scenario where this is all due to anxiety brought on by the pandemic, don't believe that after the test he'll be better. Soon it'll be 2 tests, then 3, because you'll be afraid of false positives. This type of anxiety gets worse until it moves on to something else. I've had the same obsessive anxiety for years, and it didn't get better until after therapy and medication. I still struggle. Stand your ground up. NTA. But honestly, if he's accusing you of cheating, which is what this is, you're allowed to be offended. I would agree to the test, but present him with a 2-card method. One for a therapist and one for a divorce lawyer, and let him decide, since you're now the one being put through a whole rigmarole where your husband has implicated that you've been unfaithful and essentially forced him to raise the product of your infidelity. NTA. Validating someone's anxiety is often not the best way to deal with it. You'll end up constantly going out of your way to reassure him, and it won't help with the overall problem. He'll move on to fixating on something else. He needs therapy. Tell him if the therapist recommends a paternity test, you'll do it. NTA, if this is coming out of the blue and you get the feeling that your husband resents your son, then you may want to reconsider having him act as the primary caregiver. His actions sound completely irrational, and both his anger and repeated threats that he could just get it done behind your back are extremely concerning to me. He has clearly fixated on this idea, and it sounds as though he is growing more and more obsessed with getting a paternity test. He could be cheating on you and projecting that onto you. He could be panicking about his unemployment and being responsible for a child. He could be looking for a way out, etc. Regardless, he sounds unstable, and enabling his paranoia does not seem wise. NTA, but I think what you need is marital therapy. I will agree to the test, but we must attend therapy to determine if I want to continue this marriage. I'm not sure I would be able to continue my marriage in this situation. I'm sorry. NTA, my husband asked me the same thing. I was suspicious of this out of the blue. I hired a private investigator just to be sure, cause I thought no way he was cheating. But I wanted to be sure he was cheating. I hope this isn't the case for you. NTA, that is offensive to you and to your child. If my husband did that to me, I would have told him the same thing. You did this behind my back. It's a deal breaker. Adios. I am so sorry for saying this, but according to my psychology professor, if your partner is obsessively worrying about you cheating on them, they are likely to be cheating on you. Guilt projection. NTA, you're right, your husband is being totally irrational and your request makes sense. He needs mental health help. Even if you take the test without him getting therapy, who knows what he'll ask for next. Be careful. NTA, he wants peace of mind about his paternity despite no proof or indication otherwise, from what you have told us. And you want peace of mind about this worsening mental health concern. Saying you care and want him to seek treatment is very reasonable. World events are enough to give everyone a bit more anxiety, and someone already prone to it is likely going to be taking that and the job hit worse. NTA, if you think a child is supposed to be identical to their parents, you should take an intelligence test, not a paternity test. He asked me if I would be okay if he got a paternity test done so it could ease his mind. Sure, and when it comes back positive, I will be filing for divorce and child support. Nah, these kinds of irrational, intrusive thoughts usually correlate with a huge stressor, like losing a job during a global pandemic. If your husband has no history of an anxiety disorder, I would treat this as a mental health issue instead of a relationship problem. Make it clear that you recognize that he isn't accusing you of cheating. He's just trying to rid himself of an overwhelming feeling of fear and uncertainty. The fact that he's fixated on his son not being his suggests to me that losing his family is probably a big fear for him, probably along with not being able to be a good father. These sort of obsessive thoughts usually come from a place of helplessness, and he's desperately trying to retake control. If I were in your situation, I would agree to take the test if your husband agrees to a therapy visit that same day of the test to talk about his fears surrounding the issue. Then, when the results come back, you have your second session to address the entire event and how he can deal with these thoughts moving forwards. I think he's probably embarrassed to even admit to having these thoughts, knowing they aren't rational and could come off as seeing you in a negative light. Try to avoid feeling accused. This isn't about you as a wife or a mother. This is his mind telling him he isn't good enough. NTA, mental health can go to hell very quickly, and so the theory that it's been brought on by stress of not having a job sounds plausible. And if you fulfill this very unnecessary request, You may be faced with another and another and another as his obsessive thoughts move from one subject to another, and you will have to give him peace of mind again. Don't establish a pattern. NTA. If he considers an hour in couples therapy to save your marriage not worth it, there's nothing to save here. If he absolutely refuses to go, get the test, and a divorce lawyer. I agree with another commenter that this is a sign of projection. He may be cheating himself. NTA. He's got some serious issues. Others are right. If you just do the test without addressing the underlying cause, it's just going to be something else. I'm sorry you're going through this, and I hope he can get help before it affects his relationship with his son. NTA. The request is insane and I would be offended too. You're completely right to stand your ground, and the way you describe how your husband spoke makes him seem extremely self-centered. There's something deeper here. And from the information that you've shared, I think it's your husband's problem. He probably does have mental health issues, but it seems too bizarre and specific to just be stress. If that was me, I would get the paternity test when it is shown to be his. I hand him the divorce papers. I couldn't spend my life with a person who didn't trust me. I don't want to bah and ah, but I'm curious. Why do many women refuse to do a paternity test if they are sure who the father is? Like, I understand it's hard to be accused of cheating, but a test would clear those doubts. No, sorry if I'm being inconsiderate. NTA. I think this is incredibly reasonable. A DNA test result that positively concludes that your child is his son may ease this particular anxiety, but that's no guarantee that his anxiety will disappear full stop. It could easily just manifest in him obsessing about something else instead. Losing his job may have been a blow to his confidence, and it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to be able to work through that and any potential jealous or trust issues he may have towards you. But you do need to set a definite time emo. Cause if he says yes to going to therapy and he asks if he can do the test now, you could say, no, I want to make sure you'll keep going first. Then he'll ask after his third session or fifth session, and you could say, no, I want you to be medicated first, and so on and so forth. Effectively dangling this over his head for however long you'd like, which wouldn't be fair. Personally, I'd tell him he can get the test after attending 3 sessions of therapy. No sooner. That way when the test has come back and shown he is the father, he's still anxious, he already has someone to talk to and can get going immediately without spending several sessions just on filling in the therapist with all the relevant info.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.